No, I just felt like in bigger companies, they might have a more streamlined approach compared to smaller startups where I felt there's no line that is drawn between software engineering, data engineering, and AI. Sometimes they're just all over the place. They would ask me questions from software engineering. They would also ask me from NLP. I I'm lost. Is this a data engineering interview or so they are small in the beginning and they kind of tend to snowball and become like this monstrous issue. And if nobody's looking at it, especially, it just tends to go astray very quickly. One day you will find that data is all wrong. And that is the day when a stakeholder will come to you and be like, I need this right now. It is so critical that I need it today. So, um, yeah, so I implemented.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, Priya. We are thrilled to have you here today. Priya is data engineer, currently working at CC Intelligent Solutions. She holds a master's degree in data science from Syracuse University and has previously worked on the diverse data projects and companies like Our Ability and Morpha Labs. Her passion lies in finding patterns in data to create valuable business insights. Today, I would like to learn more about her and her path towards data engineering, skills needed to land a first job in data engineering, and how her academic background has shaped her career and path. So, Priya, welcome.
Oh my God. Hi. Hi, Arthur.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you for that intro.
yeah. Of course. So, I always try to start with the icebreaker question. So, are you a dog or a cat person? Do you have, and then do you have any pets, living with you at the moment?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm definitely more of a dog person. I think I spend a dangerous amount of time doom scrolling puppy videos. I just find puppies really cute. Not so much as like grown dogs, just puppies. But I think my personality sometimes is like a cat, not so friendly, just sometimes rude, always clumsy and knocking things over. I don't care about other humans. I just, live in my own world, just be independent.
I hear.
um,
So,
I think so, yeah. But
I hear you. So,
no, I don't have any pets. I don't think I'm responsible enough to have any pets living with me. I have a hard time looking after myself right now. So, no.
totally get it.
But yeah, someday.
So one thing which I was thinking the other day, like if we look at pets and if you look at the dogs, like dog is sort of like like an employee who always comes at like 8 in the morning. He, like if the being a pet would be a work, so dog is a perfect employee, right? He always there, he always to cheer you up and always to be there. At the same time, cat is like volunteer, like a seasonal volunteer who only comes when it
Yes.
fits, the cat. And you
Only when it's
basically,
hungry.
you cannot really get the cat attention to when you want it. And just like, yeah, I agree with you. I think, yeah. Anyway, so let's start with, like I would like to know a little bit more about yourself, right? So I would like to hear your story. Like you finished Anna University with a degree in architecture and then somehow ended up in the US. So would you mind sharing a part of your life before, come transition to US?
Yeah. My journey is definitely something very unconventional. Because yeah, I grew up in India and I always knew I wanted to do something associated with design, but I also wanted to do something technical. So that's kind of why I chose my bachelor's degree in architecture. Towards the end of my degree, I was very interested in what's called as computational design.
Okay.
It's basically where we use algorithms and data to find solutions to complex design problems. So I worked on multiple projects where we use data to design facades for buildings, like for skyscrapers, in order to make them more energy efficient and
Wow.
to make them respond better to its environment. So this process of making it more climate smart, if you will, for the lack of a better term, and optimizing buildings to like efficient heat levels, air circulation, light levels, humidity levels, how much openings in a facade is most efficient and most desirable, factors like that. So I think that is what introduced me into the world of data, into this huge world of data. I wasn't aware about what machine learning was at that point, but that kind of introduced me to like the surface of what the potential of data can do. And I felt that that was a better fit for me. And by the time I remember machine learning and AI has already become like these specialized buzzwords. And I felt like data science it still has a low barrier for entry.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of people from diverse backgrounds, transition into data science. And I also wanted to ride that transition wave. So when I decided to come to the US for my master's, that's that I wanted to transition into data science.
Okay. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, your choice of the profession in the bachelor's degree is amazing. Like it's, like, this is, so to be honest with you, like this is sort of like what I hope to sometime do in the future. All my, like professional life, I was, like somewhat in the e-commerce, somewhat into sort of like, like the online business. Like I never really touched the real things out there in the world. I mean, I think I know what I want to do next. So that sounds
Oh
like
my
really,
God.
really exciting. So okay,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
so you get into US and like how was it? Like did you had an experience of the US before going into like I think it's also like if I may ask like why, right? Well, okay, I myself also came to US and I know why, but I'm just curious, like you yourself, if I can ask.
Um, yeah, it's been a little over 2 years since I moved to the US, and I think it's a natural choice for a lot of Indians and for a lot
Okay.
of immigrants to naturally choose the US for your masters, as well as for if you want a career in tech. I think this is the place to be. Yeah, but it's been a roller coaster ride, honestly. It's been a great learning experience during my master's, both in my course as well as in my internship and in my current job. Definitely, the job market was challenging, but I should say that I'm still grateful for how things worked out, and I don't have any regrets, no complaints so far.
So the last question about that part. So at what year did you came to like for your master's degree? When was it?
I came here in the fall of 2022, and I
Okay.
graduated in the fall of 2024. It
So
was a 2 year
basically in
course.
the
Yeah.
worst time ever, at least for
Yep.
now, because like we have
Yep.
after COVID, we have a massive like the tech layoffs and the silent resignation, people getting out, and now you're coming in, and now you need to compete with everyone from Facebook, Google, Meta, and all of that. It's just like, yeah, we'll get to that part. It's just like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So the last thing about, like so I would like to know like the academic life and the comparison between two, right? The sort of like university in India and then the master's degree in the US. Like, does the way of the studies is presented is different, or it's just look again? Most likely, many like students know that. I don't. I'm interested, so this is why I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of differences. I felt that in the US, I would say there is more project based learning
Okay.
and hands on learning, hands on exploration instead of, you don't have to write a lot of exams, honestly.
Okay.
That's the best part. Um, and I felt in my master's program in the US, there were different pathways that we could specialize in. Like you could choose an AI track or the big data track. And if you wanted to also like add another skill that can broaden your skill set, like maybe product management or like an advanced cloud management, you can get an advanced certificate in it. It just helps broaden your skill set. And um, more than the coursework, I had the opportunity to work as a research assistant with my professors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a lot of extensive research happening in the US that might not be as extensive in India. I think that gave me more practice in playing with code, and that actually enhanced my resume in getting internships. So I think that was the major difference I felt.
So you went into like a data science, right?
Data
More,
science program.
yeah, that data science program. Yeah, makes sense. So and then a lot of like research in that field, which makes total sense. Got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so we go into the fun part. So the job hunt, how was it? And yeah, of course. Okay, so you finish, like your master's degree. I mean, now look, this is not a secret for anyone, right? Like I myself on the visa, and there is a certain things which I can and cannot do, and there is a certain times which I need to, and it's just like a stressful thing. I mean, as I understand, and please correct me if I am wrong, like the students who come to like master's degree, right? They have a certain visa, and then eventually you want to get to H1B, but like it's for you to get that, you actually need to find a job first, right? So to finding the first job, it's most likely both stressful and very complicated. Am I correct?
You're absolutely right. If, especially for students who come here, they come here on F1 visa.
Yeah.
And if you have a STEM degree, you have 1 year of F1 OPT, which gets extended for 2 years. If you don't have a STEM course, then it's just 1 year of F1 OPT. So it's definitely like you have a time constraint, you have a clock ticking all the time for you to find a job,
Yeah.
which makes it even more stressful.
Oh, yeah, tell me about that. Okay, so okay, you're done with the school, so you want to find a job. You're getting into the
Yeah.
market. How was it?
It was definitely challenging. I did not expect that I had to be so rigorous in job hunting and that I had to spend, as much time doing job hunting as I did on coursework and projects, sometimes even more, you know? So I started applying for internships 1 month after my course started.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a pretty early start in my internship search, but yeah, the market was still like hard to crack, and a lot of times I felt lost. I think I went through like this circle of reassessing and reiterating my job hunting strategies. I had to keep, I had multiple versions of my resumes. I had to keep tuning my resume to each jobs. I had to have iterations of what works, what doesn't work, what gives me interviews, and what doesn't. So I think it was a very trial and error kind of process, and I've lost count of the number of rejections I've got, like so many attempts, and just to land just to land one internship or just to land one job. I know that like, and also the interview process is it's like kind of a performance, if you will. Like it's highly different from what you would do in your actual job, so it kind of makes it more difficult to kind of navigate that scenario. I think it's fundamentally flawed that way. Um, yeah, it just adds a layer of complexity, I would say.
And this is just the internship, right? That's the part in your life where you're still studying and you just need to have an
Yes.
internship, right? So, and the universities doesn't help with that in any way.
They do help us with like resume reviews, or they do have career fairs, but they could also help only to a certain extent when the job market is not doing so well, right?
That's, I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, like at the end of the day, you just need to find a job. It's just, like in
Yeah.
some cases, it's like, and like, from my personal understanding, is internships paid or unpaid, or it depends?
It depends on the company, but I was lucky enough to land a paid internships. But from what I hear, mostly they are paid internships. Very
Okay.
rare to find unpaid, but
Okay.
still they do exist. Unpaid internships still do exist.
Okay, okay, got it. So yeah, so eventually you did land the internship job, right? Or getting an internship. So as I understand, internship, you're actually now going to work, you're actually experiencing everything. So how was this, like the difference between, like studying about the things and actually, working in the thing? So what was, your
Yeah, my internship, it has been like an incredible learning opportunity. The internship that I landed, my company deals with insurance data. So where we consolidate data from different tables into a single source of truth and push them to dashboards essentially for the BI teams. So I was doing my internship for a year,
Mhm.
after which it converted to a full time. So I got a lot of time window to learn. 1 year of learning, and you get paid to learn basically. So that was a long time for me to learn. And as you said, it's one thing to learn big data concepts and data warehouse concepts in school, but it's definitely a steep learning curve when I had to do things in production, right? Right when I started my internship was when my team was migrating to Apache Hoodie. It's completely lost in the beginning. I was like, what is happening? What is this? So I think it was a great chance for me to observe and learn, and that's the best way to do it. So I was also involved in few production issues, which I'm really grateful for because that is what actually helped me learn like the ins and outs of how data gets ingested, how does it pass through different hops, and just get comfortable with existing pipelines. So I think internship definitely helped in applying the big data fundamentals, especially like some concepts with with Spark, for example, or they're very abstract in your mind. I know these concepts mean something, but it's very different to see them in action. And I think internship helps in applying them and
Mm-hmm.
getting a better grasp of things. And also, you would also get to play with different tools like Airflow, Redshift, Glue, and actually learn how things work in production because that's something that you would never learn in an academic setting, right? Um, yeah, I think because I had a long time to learn now that I do my current work, I just feel it's much more easy for me to deliver. Um, yeah, I think I can just pick up stuff easier because my fundamentals were built strong. That's kind of what I feel.
Okay. So I kind of like jump a little bit to, like this question. So a little bit, let's track back, right? So uh, you didn't knew that your internship will convert to the full-time job. So at some point you needed to basically get yourself back into the market and start looking for a job, right? Like, did you had this or you kind of like knew, yeah, it will, like close deal and it's fine?
No, that was not the case. I wasn't sure if my internship was going to convert like until my graduation, I
Mm-hmm.
think. So um, I had to also do a job hunting along with my internship, along with my coursework. So that was definitely a stressful period. So I had a different internship hunt and I had a different job hunt.
Okay, so
So
perfect. Let's talk about that. This is very interesting. So, for every student who's currently, like still in the school, has maybe its internship and starting to look for a job. So, guess what to expect, or like what was the least. I don't know, how to ask that. Like, please, expand as much as you can of like how this interview went. Like, I kind of feel that they're not coming very nice. I bet myself in my career, like in some interviews, and then like sometimes the interviews is just like, I'm not building a space rocket here. Like, I understand why you're asking these things. And then sometimes it's just like like, I don't know, like I don't know. So, yeah. So, if you mind, like going from like the craziest interview questions or even, like the things they ask, that would be really amazing.
sure. Yeah, in my opinion, finding a job right now is definitely hard, but it's not impossible. It's definitely doable. So, most companies and recruiters, I think they want to see some work experience in the US before hiring, which is the most hard part. Like, how do you expect beginners to have 3 years of 3 years of experience when you start out, right? So I think new students and new hires need to have the most marketable skills that employers are looking for. Um, and just take any small work that comes your way, assistantships, internships, or any part-time jobs. And I felt that the small things kind of tend to lead into more serious things. And definitely be consistent in applying. I would aim for about at least like 50 to 100 applications a week.
Oh my God.
So I wasn't able to, I used to aim for that, but I was also not able to be very consistent with, with work and with coursework.
Okay.
So
I will interrupt you here. Sorry about that. So let's stick a little bit around that. Like 50 to 100 applications per week. Like, do
yeah,
you just have a one template which you send to everyone, or do you adjust based on, like the job description and what the company is asking, or you would just at the state just send, just send, just send?
I've done all of this. I had different phases where I tried all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would just see if tailoring my resume to the job description is giving me more interviews, or maybe have one master resume that has a lot of different skills that I can specialize in. So whatever works for me. I don't think I have one right answer for this. It really depends on
Mm-hmm.
what works for you. Maybe you are someone with a little bit more experience than me, then it might work to just have one resume. But I did have 3 or 4 different versions. So sometimes I had one version for AWS tools and, tech stack surrounding that. I had one for GCP and tech stack surrounding that because I felt like that landed me more interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So um, yeah, and some I have also done the blind application process, which I did not get much success from. So that is something that I wouldn't recommend doing. It would be best to tailor your resume, even if it's not for each job
Mm-hmm.
application. At least have three
Like
or four different
like the
versions, and
junior entry level data engineering, little like mid or sort of like junior, and then sort of like a data science, then data analyst, sort of like that type of tailoring, correct?
right. And there's also, if you see, there's a traditional tech stack. People want to see Spark on your resume. They want to see Airflow, or they want to see some specific AWS tools. And there's also like this modern tech stack, if you will, or low code, where they want to see DBT or Snowflake. So they want to see particular words in your resume. So sometimes recruiters have like a list of keywords that they want to search on your resume before giving you an interview. So maybe 7 out of 10 of those requirements need to be met on your resume for you to get shortlisted. That's kind of how the reality is. So I
This
think
this is
tailoring
night.
your
This
resume.
is nightmare. I will tell you this way. Like Snowflake on the resume doesn't tell me anything. Like Snowflake is a query engine. If you know SQL, you should be fine. That's then you just
That's true.
adjust to the details. It's oh my god. I mean,
It is true.
so I'm sorry. I'll just share that. So the way how I got my data engineering job, I was already at a company, right? And I might have already shared that was just like my manager at one of the stand-up meetings like was like, hey, like we have this thing Hadoop, and we need to pull like sort of like how many visits we have for our like SEO pages. I mean, we asked BI team, they are very busy with other projects, they might do that in like couple months. Like, can anyone would like to do that in our team? And I kind of like raised hand, and that was the day I became data engineer. That was it.
Oh, that's a really funny story.
Yeah. Okay. So, little bit of like interviews. Did you manage to get like any actual interviews? Like for all of those things.
Yeah, I did. I think I did about 3 or 4 interviews during my internship hunt and about 4 or 5 interviews during my full-time
Mm-hmm.
job hunt. And yeah, and
What's the?
also during,
Yeah.
yeah,
Please. Sorry. Continue.
no, I just felt like in bigger companies, they might have a more streamlined approach compared to smaller startups where I felt there's no line that is drawn between software engineering, data engineering, and AI. Sometimes they're just all over the place. They would ask me questions from software engineering. They would also ask me from NLP. I I'm lost. Is this a data engineering interview or so they want you to be
Full stack.
I want you to know everything, and I don't know where to draw the line. So that is the most irritating part of interview process. And I felt like bigger companies are much more streamlined in that way.
They. Yeah. True. Like kind of like makes sense, right? Like in the for the smaller startups, they sort of like tend to have like like full stack, and like they're just looking for the person who can do anything, and also ideally if they don't need to, if they do not need to pay the person for doing everything, that's
Yeah.
sort of like
Oh,
yeah, it's nothing
get
changed.
whatever you can from the person.
Yeah. So, uh, did you ever had the situation, like where the requirement kind of has like the Snowflake or DBT or any of these things, but then in the interview, do they actually ask about these any sort of like question, or just like, do you know Snowflake and that's about it?
No, they might ask you what kind of projects you implemented in it. Do you have actual working experience with Databricks if that's what the job asks for? So it's not like, oh, okay, I know the fundamentals, I can apply it in some other place, but it feels like they can get a candidate who's a better fit.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of to some degree is true, and I mean like if you're hiring and now if you're in the market which has, like, and two juniors and one has some experience with actually doing something and another hasn't, then you kind of like would just go with the one which has, right? At the same time,
Yeah.
I think so this is what I think. So we did had this massive resignation in the IT sector, or also sort of like a massive layoffs and stuff like that. And people already coming with the experience, but they also coming with the expectations of the compensation, because they're coming from this massive companies which has like a massive compensation packages and things like that. I don't know. I heard,
Right.
so I don't know. One thing which kind of like bothers me is that I remember like so from the other side of the spectrum, right? So I would get emails from the recruiters telling, hey, I have this nice candidate, worked as Amazon or Google or Facebook, and just asking for, like basically my salary, and I was like, well, good for you, but like, first of all, we're not hiring, and second of all, like, you have like you have no experience, and like it's just like, wow, it's, yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. I mean, it's not that they not deserve to be compensated. Great for her, for them. It's just like, yeah, it's, yeah. Sorry, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm just kind of like lost a little bit. I was listening for you now. I need to get back into my question here. Okay, so okay, let's get back again a little bit more about the interview. So again, this is the piece where I hope someone who is listening us, will be searching for the like the job position as the intern, as like, or as just like a job as a data engineer. So what is the most, well, you had 7 interviews, right? So still, so what is the most common questions you had been asked about?
Um, I think, okay, definitely there's going to be a coding assessment with Python and SQL. But if we put that aside, I think the most common questions usually comes from some form of big data framework. Usually I had questions about Spark,
Mm-hmm.
ins and outs of Spark, like architecture, file formats. File formats is like is like one of the most common questions asked, like
Interesting.
which yeah, I think so. That's one common thing in all my interviews. Nobody fails to ask about file formats. Um, Sometimes they even go into like how would you optimize like SQL queries? How would you help save resource, or how would you just make the existing thing more efficient? I think that's one of the most common things I've encountered.
Okay. Interesting. So, okay, now you're already working. So let's little bit, like they'd informed that they extending your internship. Congratulations with that. You're now fully, like employed data engineer. So, can you share what is your stack right now with what you actually work?
Sure. So we basically pull data from our databases from Oracle or Postgres
Mm-hmm.
into our platform. So our platform on AWS, we pull the data into S3. We have a multi-hop architecture where we ingest the data and then we do transformations. We use PySpark for transformations, and all the orchestrations are done with Airflow. And so we have an Apache Hudi lakehouse. We also have Hive tables as well as Hudi tables. And after all the transformations, the data gets extracted into Tableau for dashboards and reporting. Um, and we have like a wide range of projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some projects use Redshift and Glue, some projects use Hudi and Hive tables. There were a few projects that were using Kafka, but I wasn't really
Mm-hmm.
actively working on that. Yeah, it's like a wide range of projects and tools.
And how you would consider your company? Is it a big company, like a couple hundred employees, tens of employees, thousands of employees?
It's thousands of employees because it's an enterprise, and
Okay.
my team is about, yeah, I would say 10 to 15 people
Okay. And
in my
how
team.
big is the data organization itself? So that would include
Definitely
data
like a
engineers, analysts, scientists, and
I would say around 200 to 300 people
wow.
in PNT. Yeah, it's a big enterprise.
Wow, very big. And
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I bet the feeling when they inform you that they want to extend your, tell me about that. Like how was it? Like, like did you initiated that? Did they offer that? Like what was the, like how was it?
Yeah, it was definitely a back and forth process because around before around 2 months of my graduation, I asked them if there's any possibility for extension. I had a conversation with my manager, and there were definitely some budget constraints with my team, but my manager was interested in bringing me on board. So he tried to put me in another team where there was more budget. So yeah, that was kind of how it happened. It was very last minute till I graduated. But after I got the job, it was definitely a huge anxiety lifted. Especially, I think people on a visa can understand that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
No, I definitely can understand that. So do you think this is, again, like I don't know, so do you think this is a normal practice to ask if your internship can be converted for that full-time position, or is it sort of like a not really, and like should, I mean, I guess people should try that, right, anyways?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of companies hire interns with the intention of hiring them full time.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're students, it's a nice opportunity to make them learn whatever and then hire them once they have that experience. And the company also feels confident in your skills instead of like, hiring someone new. They know you for quite some time, right? So I think it's one of the most I would say efficient ways of landing a job in this
Mm-hmm.
market right now, especially if you're doing masters. Definitely, like I cannot stress the importance of finding an internship and trying to convert that.
Yeah, because like if you don't have internship, like it's even much harder to find a job later on, right? It's barely impossible. So, please tell me, did you had, like after you finish your bachelor's degree back in India, did you work anywhere before moving to US, or you just finish and immediately move to US?
No, I was working as an architect,
Yes,
so
perfectly.
I
Yep.
was yeah,
Good.
I did
Just
have some work experience, but not very relevant to data
no, no,
engineering or
I understand that. The question is not about it. I just wanted to ask. So, I want to ask the office culture India versus
oh
US. Also, I understand that industries are very different, and like the architects in America might relate a little bit more to what you experience in India, but at the same time, so I guess this will be like both the industry change and the cultural change. So if you would compare, to in like two countries, like and the office culture between.
yeah, interesting question. I think compared to India, definitely better work-life balance and work culture in the US. Yeah, especially in my office, people help me out all the time. They go out of their way to help me out. I don't feel any inhibitions, in reaching out to people for help. Or if I don't know something, I just want some knowledge transfer. Maybe I haven't been working on this tool. I just want someone to fill me in. So I think people are more friendly in that way. Um, I I also get to work on a lot of proof of concepts, and I have the freedom to experiment sometimes and figure out what works best in my current job. I felt like that kind of freedom I did not have back in India. Um, and work is more interesting here. I mean, I'm not siloed
Mm-hmm.
to just one particular monotonous thing. I feel like definitely have the freedom to explore. Comparing to architecture, I would say it's just creativity in different ways. That's architecture. Creativity is different, and trying to be creative with code is different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I feel like I just felt I would be a better fit in the corporate tech world, and that's kind of it. So I don't really have anything wrong to say about architecture. Just that it's just more organized for me in corporate tech, and I like that about my job. So
That's
that's pretty
cool.
much it.
So,
Yeah.
it's not really related to to this one, but just like curious. So, is there a thing which right now keeps you like in the morning excited?
Oh, about my job.
Yeah, sorry, like sorry. So what for you? Yeah, again, I'm
Okay,
again.
what about my
Look,
job is
so
exciting?
first of all, like I'm an amateur interviewer. I have no idea what I'm doing, so it's totally fine. I'm by trade, I'm the data engineer as you are, so I'm just yeah. So yeah, so getting back to your work, right? Like, so what motivates you every morning? Like gets you excited, especially like when you started your internship. Now you actually can experience these things in the real world. Like of the things which you just
Mm.
tried or read or do, and now you can so like it's still that there, or like it's something else.
Yeah. No, as also like as an intern, you are allowed to make mistakes, as many mistakes as you want, and you're getting paid to do it. So when you become a full-time person, I don't think you can just like be, oh, you know what, I'm just an intern, I don't know this. You cannot be just unaware of things, right? So you have to definitely take on more responsibility and just become an actual adult when you become a full-time person. And I think every data engineer, I read this somewhere, every data engineer would have built some data set or some dashboard that nobody is using, you know? So sometimes work can get ambiguous in terms of like, maybe it's vague, or the requirements keep changing sometimes, or as developers, we also don't really know the business impact of the code that we write. So I think tying my work to the outcomes that the business cares about, and that is kind of what makes me able to measure my results in a tangible way. So I would say just understanding the business impact of my work, that is kind of where I derive my purpose. And what is the problem that I'm solving at the end of the day, and what's going on, talking to other teams and understanding business pain points. I know I'm not there yet, but that's kind of where I want to head towards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Try to eliminate as much as redundant tasks as possible and just try to make things more efficient.
So again, a step back. So in university, you're studying,
Mm-hmm.
like mm, data science, right, field. Now, how many of that skill actually was it you were able to apply directly to your internship and the work? And also, do you think is this because that you chose the data engineering position instead of the data science, or like not really?
Oh, um, maybe if I had gone into data science like a machine learning engineer, maybe I would have used more skill sets. But I would say I just use about 20 to 30% of what I learned from school. It definitely helps in building those fundamental concepts and core concepts like data warehouse, big data analytic courses, database admin courses, and also like your knowledge around coding, basic coding and statistics. I think those are the most relevant to me. But definitely, there's like a huge gap between the academic curriculum and what you would do in the actual job. Uh, I mean, like the school, it the complexity that we face in real life. You're always dealing with squeaky clean data in my courses. So we assume that. So that's why we assume that the data somehow magically comes to us, and we can just start doing statistics and machine learning models on top of it. Um, so I think um, I learned a lot on the job compared to what I did in school, especially like um, dealing with production issues, where we spend a lot of time, debugging and tracing back the pipeline. Those are things that you would only get to learn on the job. A substantial part of of what we do, like where's the data missing? There's probably like some join that has given me so many duplicates that I had to trace back. So that kind of practice is definitely not present in your academic test setting, right?
Yeah.
Also, like best coding standards. we don't uh, we don't get to learn that, in school. How to test your code, how to write better quality code. We don't learn that. Also, like talking about scalability, right? I know it's like a chapter. I remember it's a chapter in my big data course, but we don't really actually learn actual scalable solutions, and not just like scalable in terms of volume, but like it's gonna increase in complexity and variety, which is definitely not. It's definitely not simulated in an academic setting. I know, like if you can understand what I mean.
Of course, I do
Um,
understand what you mean. So,
so yeah, so I think yeah, just 20 to 30%, surprisingly.
so so you said you had some production issues. So did you ever like so this is what I heard recently. Is what colleague of mine was like, "Hey, my job failed," and he was like,
Hmm.
"I didn't change anything." And I was like, "Well, it's good that you didn't change anything, but what about the data itself?" And apparently there was like a spike in the data and just like flapped over the infrastructure. The infrastructure wasn't able to handle, just like appear like a couple extra million rows, and now that's it. Like the infrastructure was sort of like fall apart, and his square wasn't able to succeed. So, did you like had this where already experienced this where you didn't change anything, but suddenly everything is broken, and just because the underlying data is changed because of like increased
Definitely.
volume or something like that?
Yeah, definitely facing a lot of out of memory issues. That happens a lot of time, especially with like larger tables and override tables. Um, but also like most of the production issues are also about like some data is not accurate, it's not consistent. What is the point of having like fresh data if it's not accurate? And if the final end users are not seeing right data, then yeah, I don't what's the point, right? So yeah, I think those are some checks that needs to be implemented earlier in the pipeline. That's also like a standard practice that needs to be carried out.
Yeah. Do you also get sort of like, hey, like I want this report or I need this data set, and then after you sort of done everything, they would be like, can we have it in real time? And then you're like, or
No,
not
I
yet.
haven't. Yeah, not yet. Yeah, I don't think I have like requests like that. But there's always requests that they want right now, but they might really not end up using it.
Yeah.
I've had some scenarios like that, but I haven't been asked about real time yet.
Yeah. So don't worry, that will come to the at some point as well, because then you will be like, wait a second, like we only getting sales data every Sunday. Like I cannot make you real time data. The data is just not coming
What
real
can be real
time.
time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so you experience little bit of like the data science when you study it. Now you do
Mhm.
a lot of like do as I understand a lot of data engineering, at least from what I hearing of what you do. Did you ever did anything for the data analytics? Sort of like a pulling data, building a dashboard, answering the business questions or stuff like that?
No, I've not really done anything on that side
Okay.
because
The
so
reason
that is handled by the BI team
the
in
reason
my
why I'm
office.
asking was just like curious, like where do you see yourself? What like area of these three disciplines? Well, actually, there is more. There is also the operation piece, where like the data operation piece, which is basically just like making sure the service is running and stuff like that. Where do you kind of like? I hope you try all of them. I'm just curious, like where do you right now feel the most joy and interest?
I think I like where I am right now. Developing is my happy part right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, definitely I understand what you mean about operations and being on call sometimes and dealing with critical issues. But I'm not sure if I'm up for that yet. Um, my team is also moving towards prediction as a next stage
Mm-hmm.
with the data that we have. So that's something that I'm really interested in building machine learning pipelines or seeing what is possible with the data for business use cases. But yeah, right now I'm happy with just doing data engineering stuff.
That's cool. Okay, so again, I'm just jumping back and forth. This is just a mess, so I do apologize about that. So let's get back a little bit again to, to your interview questions and to your job hunt. And I would like, like if like, what advice would you give to someone currently in university who wants to, like, be a data engineer? So sort of like, like what specific programming languages, tools, technologies, like what like should like prepare itself and to learn, like for both, like being able to nail, like the like the internship or like the first job. So what you would recommend in university, what to do, sort of like what would be your advice?
Mhm. Um, I think, yeah, even for entry level jobs, you will have to meet a broad set of requirements. And there are like so many tools out there. It can easily just, get overwhelming, especially if you're just starting out. Definitely to start with Python and SQL, they
Mm-hmm.
are non-negotiable. You need to really have a thorough understanding of data structure algorithms, just be able to solve at least basic lead code questions. You need to have like a thorough understanding of joins in
Mm-hmm.
SQL. Those are some things which are non-negotiables. And um, pick one like data processing framework and try to understand parallel processing, like PySpark or Scala, um, and pick a lakehouse framework like Iceberg or
Mm-hmm.
Databricks or
Yeah.
Hoodie, and just pick one, and that kind of applies to other frameworks as well. Similarly, just pick one orchestration tool, maybe Airflow, or if you're doing DBT, then um, definitely I think personally I underestimated the importance of AWS in interviews, because AWS tools, having the knowledge of storage, EC2, virtual machines, you need to have a thorough understanding of how
Mm-hmm.
different pieces work together. And I also think you need to have some knowledge on monitoring and alerting, maybe like CloudWatch, or if you use Datadog, any
Mm-hmm.
one particular tool. It also helps in understanding containers like Docker
Mm-hmm.
or K8s. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's like a broad set of skills. But apart from all of the technical, let's keep all the technical things aside. I think it's highly essential to have the persistence, because a lot of times at work you would always just face unique problems that are new to you, and it all boils down to having the willpower and
Mm-hmm.
just being curious and following through with the tasks to completion. So you might never be as prepared as you would like, so it just requires that degree of being relentless. So I would just say you need to learn how to get comfortable in
Mm-hmm.
ambiguous situations and be ready to learn on the go.
So, did you feel that in your seventh job interview, you were getting better at answering the questions and sort of like know what is the expected answer from you is?
Definitely, yeah. I definitely felt a difference between my first interview and my seventh interview, because you kind of get the grasp of what they're expecting you to say. And I remember a lot of interviews have a panel round or like scenario based questions where they give you like what would you do in certain situations. Then
Mm-hmm.
um, so they're trying to understand your technical skills in those specific situations and how you're thinking. So I think I just got better with giving interviews.
Yeah, that's always usually the case. You do it more, like you just
Yeah.
repeat, and eventually you are getting much better at all of those things. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I hope that will be very, like useful for someone currently preparing themselves for the job market. Which do you think it's better now? It's still a shit show, if I may
I
say.
don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Me too. I think it still will be like a couple of years before things will bounce back. This is just so
Yeah.
okay. So I getting back, to what you said about like knowing the tools and things like that. I personally was always sort of like on the different opinion, and I did had couple interviews which I had, and I was sort of like looking for, like for people in my team, and the team at that time, which like was sort of like a team which needed to build tools for the other data engineers to use. So I looked for the data engineer, but then suddenly realized that actually I need a software engineer because we need to do a lot of coding, and but I want person to understand the data engineering. So sort of like was looking something in the middle. So like my questions, were hard. And what I said is just like, as long as a person understands principles, I don't really care about the tools. Like, I don't care like what function in the Spark or Pandas or Polaris or whatever you need to use to like you need to call to run the aggregate or sum. As long as you know that there is a function who can do that, I'm fine with that, because like you can Google that, like in at work
Yeah.
you can Google that. Oh, by the way, that leads me to sort of like sidetrack. So how often do you use Google or ChatGPT to answer your job questions at
All the
work?
time.
how often that
All the
you
times.
use them in your interviews.
Oh, I don't think you can use them in
Exactly,
interviews.
this is bullshit, right? Like,
So,
sorry again, sorry for my language, but this is the this is the most, like, this is like, it's so broken because for the interview they
it's
expect you to
broken.
memorize everything. Like, I myself have problem memorizing. I know principles, I need to try things, and I can say how they work, but like, I cannot really memorize all of those. Well, through the years I do learn things, but like, that's the thing. Like, you need to learn tools, you need to understand what you're doing to be able to use these tools. This is what I think.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Okay, so yes.
completely agree on that.
Yeah, so, but I guess this is what I think, this is what you think, we both agree on that. I'm happy about that, but as I hear from you, this is not what market thinks. Market wants you
Nope.
to basically learn the things exactly as they are, and I think this is just the reality, the sad reality of, I don't know, like, it's, yeah, it's Priya, it's sad. This is what I was, it's just, yeah. I mean, I'm so, like, yeah, I'm really, really sad for the, like, the current young generation, which needs to go through the field of, like, the hiring managers, not the hiring managers, for the, like, the, the talent people who doesn't know anything
Hmm.
about the industry, the
Recruiters,
hiring
yeah.
managers who sometimes doesn't know anything about the industry, and it's just like, oh my god, this is so, okay, anyway, sorry. Okay,
We
so
got sidetracked.
yeah, so exactly, so, I'm getting emotional. It's just like, I really care about the industry, I'm really interested in that, and it's just like, like, whatever. So you mentioned a couple things which I would like to iterate a little bit more. So you mentioned about sort of like you working now, and you have this, of like, participating in interesting projects. So you're not working that long, but like, did you are you exposed to some interesting projects? Not, like, just data engineering usually is just like we move data from A to B, that's it, right? Like, do you expose
Mhm.
yourself to some, like, more interesting stuff which you do, or is just like the plain moving data and that's it?
Uh, I do work on. Are you asking about like tools, or are you asking
More
about
like about the
projects?
projects themselves, is there any interesting project which you're working right now which you're like, oh, that's really cool? Like you mentioned
Yeah.
about the machine, about the prediction stuff which your team is planning
Mhm.
to work, already working, so, something on that lines.
This was just a proof of concept that I developed,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was like a hackathon in my office,
Okay.
and we were just trying to um, make the existing workflows more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just we worked on like automating these ad hoc reports that we get from the BI team
Hmm.
using a generative data chat
Mm-hmm.
assistant. So we were using AWS Bedrock
Mm-hmm.
foundation models, like Anthropic Claude model. So what it basically does is it takes the text, like let's say that there's a business, just like a simple ad hoc request, like tell me the top 10 states where the
Yeah.
patient data is so and so. So it basically converts a simple text into a SQL query with, even if it has to join two tables, maybe zip code table and a patient table, and then it runs on the data to provide the results and maybe just give a simple visualization. This could just be like a time saving. Um, yeah, so this is just a proof of concept that we developed, and this is something that I would love exploring more. Just do some more predictions, or just make the existing workflow more efficient.
You will lose your job, right, by doing this thing.
No, I don't think so. No, 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 no. This is much more simple.
So, like, I think this is sort of like a very common thing which I hear, and you're not the first person who is talking about that. Oh,
Mhm,
we did this cool secret project at work where we, the users has a chat where they can enter the question, and then we grab this chat
mhm.
and then we convert it into SQL, we run it, and then we return the result. And I was like, we also did something like that, and I myself also doing something like that. It's just like an interesting work to do. But like, do you think this actually can be used by, like, the people who doesn't understand where the query is running and what the underlying data is, just like plainly giving the answer to the user who has no knowledge about the data? Or you believe that, like, I don't know, like, your opinion?
No, because definitely like the tables that we have are much more complexly joined, and the data that we have is much more complex. But this could be like a starting point. in getting somewhere.
Hmm.
But if it's just a small, simple pipeline, this might work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you. That's sort of like we discussed that we sort of like had a proof of concept working at work, and like there was like, oh, do we want to expose that to like the broader audience? And then we're like, well, what will happen if the broader audience will come to us and say like, look, your AI is saying this is the right number. Why are you giving me this number, which is we know is incorrect? And then you're like, well,
Right.
no, our number is still correct, and it's just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. That's interesting. I'm happy that it sounds like a very cool company you're working in. It's a corporate, but all at the same time, you have a hackathons. You have, like the people helping
Yeah.
you. So that's really really cool. I think you're lucky.
Yeah, I think it's a good work environment. I definitely like working here. Yeah.
That's very good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the future, right? So, is there any things like which might be a little bit like anyway? So any emerging technologies in data engineering you are explicitly excited about?
Um, I'm just seeing a lot of discussions with like, low code solutions with, how Databricks is they're integrating pipelines with machine learning and LLMs. And definitely there's like this huge hype with RAG models and LLMs. Yeah, definitely something that's exciting. But I've just not like, I've just dipped my feet. I haven't really explored a lot. But yeah, just sounds interesting.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
And how do you keep yourself updated, with these things, like any tricks?
I just attend a lot of events in person in
Mm.
Chicago. I attend. I try if I get time, I implement projects, but I don't really now. I don't believe in doing side projects. I can just try to do implement projects in my work if
Hmm.
that's gonna help me. Um, yeah, I think just scroll LinkedIn most of the time. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so and so I would like to ask a little bit. It's still very early, and I understand that, very early in your career, but like I was thinking about that the other day, and I decided that I will add a default question to all the people which I will interview, because I want to ask them where do they see themselves in 5 years. And the reason why I'm asking that, I hope to have a similar conversation with you in 5 years and basically ask
Oh
the
my
same
God.
question again. So we will get back to that. So keep that in top of your, in back of your head. We'll get to this one. Meanwhile, what was the most rewarding project which you did at your work? Like, like what's was like, wow, this is amazing, or it's just like,
Um, I think in my current work, I implemented data quality in
oh,
existing pipelines. I think this was like an investment that needs to be done, in parallel to developing. Because, like I said, what's the point of having fresh data? What's the point of having real data that it's not accurate or it's not consistent? So, I've noticed how data quality issues they tend to compound over time.
mm-hmm,
Like they are small in the beginning and they kind of tend to snowball and become like this monstrous issue. And if nobody's looking at it, especially, it just tends to go astray very quickly. One day you will find that data is all wrong. And that is the day when a stakeholder will come to you and be like, I need this right now. It is so critical that I need it today. So, um, yeah, so I implemented great expectations data quality for existing pipelines. Um, More than just like, the basic checks that we do, like count checks, duplicate checks, formats, or range or null checks. We also implemented more dynamic or like statistical testing to detect anomalies because there's so many different pipelines and nobody is looking at anything unless we are alerted and and the data goes beyond a certain threshold, right? So that is the probabilistic um, implementation of like, okay, so this data point has a weight that it falls within this threshold. So and I think for some pipelines, we are also planning to mandate that has to pass these expectations before the data gets into Tableau. So I would rather have late data than I would have inaccurate data. We also introduced custom expectations because we have like varying requirements for different pipelines. So custom expectation is something that helps us a lot. Yeah, otherwise, if the thresholds are not met, we just have email alerts and just we push them to CloudWatch, just send alerts from them whenever anything goes wrong. Mm, yeah, this was the most important project that I got to implement because we want to take those precautions before stakeholders come to us and says that, oh, this table is broken, it has so many issues, and and also whenever we have production issues, we keep that in the back of the mind and kind of try to implement those checks going forward as we develop. Um, yeah, I think this project was the most important one I've worked so far.
Was this like a project in the internship time, or was it like recent one?
Yeah, it's been like I started learning about great expectations during internship, and I was able to implement for multiple pipelines when I started my full time.
Nice. I haven't. So I did. I had been asked a couple times about the data quality, and I will be honest. Like we, I mean, like I myself do not work with the data, right? Like I work with the infrastructure, just like make sure that the people have tools who works with the data, right? So this is like so far away from like I did back in a day. Like I care about the quality. We did had the things which you mentioned, just like anomaly detection, checking like if the rows matter, checking how the cardinality of your dimensionals did it change, or this is sort of like in the expected things. So, what was the method you mentioned? So, is it like a certain standard? Is it a certain application, or like I misheard the name of the approach you applied. You said like in the beginning of your internship, well, in the internship, you start reading about that and learning about it, and then eventually implemented that. So, what was that? So, the data quality, and then you mentioned the name of
Great expectations.
yeah. So, it's rate expectations, right?
Great expectations. That's an open source library. I
Oh.
think it is one of the most popular open source data quality checks. There's also like other libraries,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, my company has been using Great Expectations for multiple teams. So with Great Expectations, we will be able to give like a profiler for
Mm-hmm.
each table, and they have built-in or default expectations that we can give, which are like basic expectations like data formats, accurate to check for
Mm-hmm.
accuracy, inconsistencies, and stuff like that. And there's also custom expectations we can implement with like you could just give a SQL query. Maybe you don't want to test the whole table. You just want to do a filter and just test a portion of the table. Then you could just give a SQL query and try to see if that passes or not. We could also do like chi-square test. We could do p-value test,
Mm-hmm.
confidence tests. There are a lot of probabilistic testing that's also been um, part of the library, which we could just use so if we want. But yeah, that's pushing too hard.
No, this is just really interesting. Additional question, like, is it so you mentioned that you're using Spark, right? So is it like integrates with the Spark, or is it like run
Yes.
separately on the?
It can be a data frame that it can be a Spark data frame that
Okay,
can be tested.
okay,
Yep.
okay, cool. So, well, I will tell you a secret. You know something more than I do, so that's great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so as I said, like the data testing is, yeah. And I will just recall like when you mentioned, like in beginning when of the conversation telling, like you as an intern can not know stuff, but then eventually,
Yep.
like as a hired person, you basically cannot know stuff. I don't know stuff. And I was as an architect, I was just like, look guys, I don't know that stuff. Like you need to explain to me how it works. Like it just helps me so much more because it's I don't like pretending. I just say like, okay, I don't know that. Explain to me, and now I know. Now we good, so we can
Mhm.
move forward. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know. Like it's the company should be safe, by like it's people don't know. That's normal. That's fine. It's what yeah. Anyway, great. Like this is really really amazing. What I'm hearing is just like sort of like you're just amazing of what you're working, what you're able to achieve, what you're able to do, and then having a hard time to nail, the first job, like get like it's really just, like I'm very happy that you did, but at the same time, it's so disappointing that, like the market is as it is, and it's just like, yeah,
Mm.
it is. Anyway, again, too much, like emotional. So, and like, so now we're getting to the closing thoughts and things like that. So getting back to my question prior. So, like I hope we'll be able to meet in 5 years if, like I will still be doing this sort of thing. So I'm just curious, like what do you think you will be doing in 5 years? Like, what do you think the industry will be? Like, well, I mean, yeah. So, what do you think you will be doing in 5 years, and where do you think you want to be in 5 years?
Yeah, I think the answer is gonna evolve with
Of
time,
course,
definitely.
this is why it will be so fun to
Um,
watch.
yeah, oh my God. Um, like I said before, I think right now I just find addressing the business pain points and just trying to see where data can provide solutions. That's what I think is success for me right now. I remember like 1 year ago, I would say that I'm successful if I haven't broken anything in production. Good enough for me. After a year, I don't think, yeah, I don't think like it's important that I have done 100 tasks, but it's more important that I eliminated the need for 100 different tasks or 100 redundant tasks, right? So I think I would just define success um, if I was able to make the pipeline or make my work more efficient, make the workflow more efficient. I don't know.
No,
It's
it's fine. Don't worry about
it's too
that.
much into the future.
Yeah, I mean, no one knows what the future will hold, right? So this is totally expected, and just sort of like, I think you will be able to watch that, in 5 years at yourself, and basically we're like, oh,
Oh my
girl, if
god.
you would just know what's waiting
What
you.
was I thinking?
Yeah,
What was I even thinking?
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and I think, Priya, so thank you very much for joining today. Thank you very much for answering all my questions. I mean, I hope that, like the people who's looking for the job will find these answers, like helpful, and I will encourage everyone reaching out to you directly if they want to. And yeah, thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate
Oh,
that.
thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was like a visit. It was like a visit down memory lane. Yeah, and I hope I was of some use.
Of
Yeah,
course.
thanks so much.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Here.